Hello, everyone. Welcome to Recommentary podcast. It's a wonderful day, and we have one of the amazing personalities over here, Midhun Noble. Um, I came across Midhun while randomly browsing through LinkedIn, and I came across a post which I found to be really insightful. And the one thing that really struck me in his bio is the fact that he mentioned ADHD, and I am personally connected to that concept, and I know I mean, although I cannot call myself as somebody who falls in this category, but I know the struggles of an ADHD because I have a lot of friends who go through that. And to be able to do so many things, even with that neurodiverse condition, I think it's amazing. And I really want to talk to him and understand his journey, understand his experiences, and through this conversation, I intend to give back to people on what inspired him, the content that inspired him, like he always do. Go through the content. Welcome, Mithun. How are you feeling?
Good, I'm good. It's been a long day. Just came back from work. So I just had to plan for some text also to be sent across. So, in general, a good day to begin
Okay, thank you so much for that. So, without wasting much time, I will get into the few themes that we've identified today to deconstruct Mithun's life and what kind of inspiration that he got from the content and how it manifests in his life. So, the first thing that I want to delve into is the theme of finance. So finance has been something very core to your initial part of your career. I know you started as a banker in Canara Bank. Then you moved into another finance institution which is called Higher Education Finance Agency. And you were one of the founding team members of that agency. And you've done certifications in finance also, behavioral finance, behavioral investing. Please talk to me, talk me through that. How was the journey been? What kind of content inspired you? How has it added to your life experience?
with. See, I would never think that I would end up in a bank. I would be the last person who would think that I would end up in a bank. I really struggled in maths in school. I mean, I was good at maths. I think, it was like, I was really good at maths, but all it needs is like one bad maths teacher to screw up your maths education, right? So I was really
Yeah.
good till about seventh, eighth, something like that. And then we had a teacher in eighth standard, and she screwed my maths up. And, I used to make this joke saying, algebra is a cobra, which makes me a zebra, right? I would don't, and I still remember I was preparing for some competitive exam, and my sister was sitting alongside me, and then I think she put this exclamation near the number, okay, and and I'm an art student at that point of time, so I'm like, what is this exclamation? It's like some factorial or something like that, and I've never heard of these things in my life. So I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
glad I exited maths in 10th standard. Like after 10th, I just moved away from maths just to study arts. But unfortunately for me, I had maths traveling with me. That is, in the numbers traveling with me all the time. Like economics in my and then again in psychology you had stats as a paper. So I don't think it left me as such. But one thing that foundationally good with me was that because I have one thing that comes along with your ADHD is also that you're really good at mental maths. We hate to write, right? So
Right.
I was good at cracking competitive exams from that side of it, and that's how I got into the bank. And I never really wanted to work in a bank. But I think after going there, I mean, and I think finance is something that everybody looks at with a lot of anxiety also, right? Like as in
Yeah.
about personal finances, about discussing about wealth, about borrowing money from other people. So I feel like when I was in the system, I had a lot of opportunities to learn. And we had this system in banking called IABF, which is like an Indian Institute of Banking Federation exam, which are like very cheap exams for anybody to get certified in different banking things. And the advantage was the bank was reimbursing you for the exams. And you could take one day off also the day you go and win and write the exam, right? So two great incentives for somebody who did not want to work in the bank. So I would take up the certifications, go write it. I cleared the insurance licenses. I cleared a few of the exams in the first attempt itself. But then I was more interested because I came from a psychology background. I did my bachelor's in psychology and then did an MBA and then ended up in the bank. So because of my psychology background, I was always very curious to understand what is the motivation behind somebody using money, right? Rather than the whole act of investing itself, like it's called behavioral finance at the space is like. And then I started reading more about it, what are the biases that stop people from investing, or what are the biases that people make in terms of gambling their money in terms of investing it. And I kind of studied that, and then I kind of gave even when I was somebody, and that is a valuation I have when I spoke to a client compared to somebody else who is in the same designation of me when they speak to spoke to a client. I feel like that topic really connected because I could connect the psychology principles with finance. And when I kind of was about leaving bank also, I kind of got more certifications in behavioral finance, consulted on a few projects until I think probably my business took off. So when I was consulting, I was learning more and more on the ground in terms of like what are the biases that goes towards investing stuff. But I think a lot of education, there's hardly any good books available. So a lot of my education was actually through like probably doing a course on Coursera or something that I took it from a YouTube. Like most of the biases you could like learn through something like that. I like to read research papers, though it's a very bad trip. It's not something that I would recommend to anybody. I joined a PhD and then dropped out. So I think consuming learning is something I really like as such. But this is research paper not like how somebody would read. I would probably just look at the findings and skim through the abstract to kind of figure out what I really like about it. And when I go into the mode of like cranking up information, I read like a 30, 40 articles in like 2, 3 hours. So that mode kind of helps me, like when I have to do a project or kind of figuring out what is the the proposal I need to make for somebody or something like that. And I feel like though that knowledge somewhere sticks on. If somebody asks me to reproduce exactly like what is accounting bias or something like that, currently I won't be able to do it, but it's there in the top of my mind. I think that was my learning journey in the bank. Also, I got this opportunity to set up this organization called Higher Education Financing Agency. So it was basically a proposal to have one institution funding the entire higher education infrastructure in the country, right? Like if you know that most of our elite institutions don't have funding for infrastructure. So you would see the hostels that I think recently when the veterinary college issue was happening in Kerala, you could see the hostel beds and everything, right? Like I mean, I would not recommend my child to go and stay in a shabby hostel like that. And that was the state of infrastructure we had in most of the IITs and IIMs and everything. So the government thought of setting up a fund which could kind of finance this infrastructure because it's hard for budget allocation to do something like that. And when we got it, the entire company was just a paper. It was just a government order passed saying that we now need to set up this company. And like like in every budget, they put a fancy sentence saying this is going to be a 10,000 crore company going to fund Indian higher education infrastructure. And when any declaration come in budget saying 1 lakh crore put on education, 1 lakh crore on health, this comes to my mind. It's all a ready paper that you're going to get to start something over there. And I had like, I mean, my CEO basically wanted to take me out of the bank because I was anyway quitting the bank. And he was like, before you leave and start something on your own, you learn with me, right? Like you learn how to play the money game in a funded game because they had an equity game of 10,000 crores. So you have 10,000 crores which you can use to build a big organization. And I'm like, even a big startup don't give you that opportunity to do it. So I went there as a founding team member. And I picked a lot of skills on that ground. Like, I designed the logo, which is still around because the logo that the government kept rejecting all the fancy logos they had. Then I figured, okay, they need a graduation hat and some colors on the side. I designed the logo, I gave it to them. Then we basically had to make the company coffees and everything. So I learned a lot of architecture about like security features, about a lot of that part of it. But I think I like when things move that fast. I enjoy when there are like a lot of learnings around what I do. And then we had to learn how to basically create a fund, like get equity from the donors. I was one of the first signatories, so I had to go to Genpad Sen to sign along with the ministers in terms of the document to get the company on board. And I think we also then I had to go sit on the software because there is no project finance software in the country. So basically, when you look at from a like even say even probably let's say like a big builder like a Shoba or a this thing, right? They don't have like a project finance software. They have project management software. The finance end is never taken care of. Like if a vendor is making a like doing some work, the bill gets uploaded to a finance portal, and then the other person verifies the bill and then pays them back, right? And these big institutions are doing everything on a ledger. There is not even a software on which they are putting any of these things. Though they are the top elite when it comes to making tech in this country, there's nothing available. So then we had to sit to the vendor was from again Palakkad, learn the whole project finance, like project management finance. I had to basically understand the whole software mechanism of iterations, flows, sprints, this, that, and everything. So it is not technically banking I was doing more project management under particular space. And then once that got done, the ticket size of a loan was 500 crores. Right. So then I had to understand like, how to loan at that level, then kind of learn a lot of that. So I feel like because I kept jumping in a lot of spaces in that bank, my learning in terms of different industries was so diverse. And thanks to that, like the things that I built today also has follows a very specific principles I learned from there. Like we basically first form the structure of like probably next 5 years where does this organization look like, right? And then we reverse engineer from that to build this and say that we now need to build these are the 5 main pillars I need to build for my organization to take that. Then again we break it down to kind of move into different verticals and build that vertical in depth forward. If I probably don't have that experience with building something like that, I would not have probably done it. And we kind of did a part of this again for Nigerian government. So I was consulting on a small project over there. Did not really take off, I guess, because I think the government changed. But that is also a great experience of kind of rebuilding it for somebody else also. So probably that's my journey. But now I think I know I'm mostly consulting my friends when they need to probably invest somewhere or plan their finances. And a lot of times it becomes a counseling part also. Like a lot of my friends, when they struggle with their finances, they reach out to me saying, I'm having this thing happening. Then you teach them about debt snowballing. You kind of make them understand the biases they have, make them communicate to their partners about the financial issues they have. So I think now it has become a part of life. I don't think it's more no work, and I think I enjoy it more now when I do that discussion with somebody else. And I think I'm very reluctant to do that discussion also sometimes. Like too much of brain space I need to get in. So stay away from it. But I think I enjoy doing it. I taught teens also. I think last 2 years back during COVID, I taught teens about finance. And which is also like actively making them invest in stock market. They had their own actual accounts to invest. So teaching them about that. But I'm really glad to see the country as such has also in the last 5 6 years really understood finance. Before that, if you ask somebody about what is a I mean, what is like an AUM or something like that, no, people mention that or an NFO or anything like that. When we're in banking, we struggle to convince customers to get it. Now I people speak more things that not even I can understand half the time. So I feel great about
Right, right. And I think I am one thing that I've noticed to the last point you mentioned about financial concepts being more popular these days. One major factor is the social media, of course. There are a lot more finance influencers out there who are trying to break down complex subjects, complex topics to people so they can understand. You know, Sharon Hegde is one of the people that I follow. I think he's been quite good for me personally to open up new vistas to new areas that I hadn't known before. And it kind of as you and what I feel is once you start earning money, once you are sort of crossing your 30s, you are more serious about money management. You have certain life goals. Then you are a little more curious than you were before, right? That's my personal experience. I'm now trying to understand what how to choose a mutual fund or what kind of investment portfolio we should maintain. What are the life goals and and with respect to that life goals, how to manage those finances. So your thoughts sort of reminded me of those things.
it.
Yeah,
I think we are all in different journeys in terms of when you plan your finances, right? And I think
yeah,
that journey also keeps evolving. But one thing that I have kind of kind of looked back and thought when I see a lot of these influencer videos and somebody say, don't buy a house, don't invest in these things, invest in stocks, investment, uh, I'm someone who that also needs to come from the family backgrounds and the essence
correct.
that come from, right? If you come from an
Yeah,
an upper middle class or from a rich family, those things make sense. But for someone who probably, probably who comes from like say from a lower caste or somebody who struggled in terms of finance, like the first job in the, probably the first generation learners who got a job,
yeah,
a lot of times it makes sense for them to buy things in debt. Like for
correct.
example, I can buy a house at like 25 lakhs, which should
Mhm.
probably be something I have to pay for the next 15 years to own that house. Because never in my
Yeah,
life I'm going to own that house otherwise. And the next part is that
yeah,
my money will always keep going out, right? And I
yeah,
cannot finance something to buy in the future. So even if I invest really well, I will not be able to meet that goal, and that goal will be always an unaffordable thing for me. So it makes more sense for me
right.
to kind of have that thing being bought upfront because the rents are definitely going to be expensive. It's going to just take away from somebody who's a solo earner. But if I have other properties, I have like I sit on a cushion of money, then it makes more sense for me to not on a like asset, right? Like even the first property that I bought something which is like a mix of commercial. I have a house as well as something that I can rent out, so that my EMI is covered on it. I mean, people will look at that and say like, this guy has money, but still going to rent out his house, right? But I
Yeah,
can have a premium property, which is a road facing property, only if I choose that decision saying that I am looking at the rental yield in this property to pay off my loan, right?
yeah,
So a lot of those, like sometimes I feel like influencers completely miss that understanding and nuances of India as a culture, and there are different ways that Indian people save. We are like, as a culture, we save in debt. Like
yeah,
we have the money on debt and we buy things first, and then we want to pay for it, right?
yeah,
So the interest is reversed to us. And if the asset accrues, like gold goes up, okay, we are happy the gold money went up. Okay, house price went up, we are happy the house price went up. But when it comes to putting money in a bank and in an FD and using it diligently, we are bad at it.
Right.
Every 3 years, let's say I have 2 crore, 2 crore investment. Somebody comes and says 50 lakhs. If you invest here, you're going to get 1 crore. You take your 50 lakhs out. You're planning for the next 10 years dropped over there, right? And
Yeah.
it's not backed by any other asset. And
Correct.
as humans, we tend to do those greedy mistakes. Like even I
Yeah.
can't invest it on like 25 lakhs cash.
Yeah.
So I sometimes feel it's sensible to invest in assets which are more tangible. And
Got it. Got it. And the other thing that I've noticed going through your profile is a very unique sort of alignment of a left brain and a right brain capabilities. So typically we associate, finance and business. I mean, to some extent, business is overlapping, but finance, especially as a left brain thing, very logical, very analytical, very number based. On the other hand, you also have an interest in psychology. You're an entrepreneur, which means you're dealing with uncertain situations concerning people. You're managing people, you're managing stakeholders. So that's a lot of right brain thinking or right brain approach. And I really started with finance because I really want to touch upon the right brain, the left brain, and then move on to right brain. How do you see this? Do you see that happening inside you? And how do you manage it to get the best output out of you?
so if you get to read this book called Visual Thinking by Temple Grandin, so that's one of the, I mean, he was one of the first person to diagnose with autism, and he researched a lot of books and publishes a lot of books in the space. And it's an amazing book, right, which talks about how there are different patterns of people who exist. We normally say visual thinker, auditory learner, spatial learner, kinesthetic learner. But in visual learners, there are again different categories. There are people who actually think in visuals. There are people who think
Okay.
in patterns. There are people who think
Right.
in frameworks, right?
Yeah.
Same thing you probably see with somebody who is probably an kinesthetic learner. There are people who experience things. There are people who want to do things. There are people who kind of can imagine the touch and feel. How does a perfume smell? How does something smell? How does that look like? Like a great baker can actually predict the sense of I mean, probably scientifically flawed when I say it. But probably they are able to predict the smell of how the food would smell. There's no way to plan for it. I can put all my ingredients, but how would that food smell? And
Yeah.
that's about that's probably a skill that somebody has. And I think growing up I was more ambidextrous. So my mom still makes a joke saying that I used to eat with my left hand and my father forced me to be a right hand. And even when I was playing, I used to be confused of whether I should dribble with my left. I used to play basketball. I used to dribble with my left or dribble with my right, right? So I think I'm very ambidextrous by nature of it, and a lot of times I struggle with identifying left and right, and I don't understand so I did not learn driving for a good amount of my life. Even now, I can only drive an automatic car and a scooter. I can't drive a bike.
Right.
I think there is this ambidextrous problem somewhere also, like confusing me, saying what is right and what is left for me. And I'm bad. I mean, I'm good at understanding. Like if I go through one way, then I know the way through identifying different landmarks. But if somebody says left and right, I can't. I think when you have a very dyslexic brain somewhere in the middle of it, I feel you tend to do a lot of those things. Decently good. I tell them I'm a jack of all trades, but master of none. Right? I can design. I can code. I mean, I can make a website. I can code, but I can make a website. I can do finance. I can probably do a framework thinking. But I've done a lot of these things. But now I think like as I grow older, I can see the patterns in it. Right? I'm a very strong pattern thinker. As in,
Right.
if somebody need to explain something to me, they need to tell me like this is from here to this is where you go, and then I can probably be able to systems think that and say that these are the flaws in your method, these are the things that you're missing out. And even when I explain to people, I usually go by step by to tell them that this is what I want. And I see my
Right.
entire business again on an Excel or a Trello because I want to see
Right.
that pattern of information. I want to analytically look at it, right?
Right.
But when I teach someone or when I'm engaging with someone, I use like all the most funny examples, like a storyteller. I can go into a visual mode and then communicate to the other person, saying that this is what you're trying to do. I think it's a good blend to have. But
Yeah.
from a stronger work perspective, I feel my analytical, but I think I built that analytical part of it. It did not come naturally to me, probably because I struggle with ADHD in terms of building process and systems. Default of
Mm.
mine is if I need to be organized, I need a process and systems. Like
Mm.
I have a to-do list which I never follow. So I don't think even I'm good at that. But it
Got it.
just sticks around in terms of it. I think there is this another Tim Ferriss has this book called For a Work Week, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
yeah, so in that, I think that's one of the first reads I did in my life. I was in
Mm.
like probably 12th standard or something like that. I think I read that book first time, and I was super impressed by this concept of having a personal assistant, right?
Right.
And also the concept of elimination. So in my logic to me is that I have only limited brain power as a neurodivergent person. Right? I don't
Mm,
have so much of like I can't work for 10 hours, 12 hours, and it exhausts me completely. So I have four
mm,
hours. So even I do meetings, I do
mm,
1 hour meetings, 45 meetings, and 45 meetings is organized again into structure in terms
mm,
of how do
mm.
I get the maximum outcome of it. So the same way I
Yeah,
learned how to eliminate me from anything. So
correct.
like it's basically like an absent form of leadership. If I don't
Mm,
need to do that work second time, then I've succeeded. If I need to be
yeah,
still coming and doing it again and again, then I've failed as a leader.
correct.
And everything is very process driven in terms of whatever I build, and then somebody gets to take over that thing and run it.
Mm,
And the reverse engineering of that is like when I do something creative, I really enjoy it. So I feel like I'm a very the other part is what I enjoy, like the design and the creative and the website is something I'll close. I will not give to anybody to work on.
mm,
But the analytical part is what I don't enjoy, but I'm probably learn those skills and give to somebody else. But
yeah,
design is something I enjoy. I learn new tools. I can probably handle a decently good amount of editing tools, which is like
mm,
both video, text. AI also I learned to generate images. Recently built a website on Framer. So I think I like learning that part of it. But I think I also like Naval Ravikant says, you should philosophize your life and be able to
right,
break it down to its first principles, right?
right,
So
right.
that first principle thinking is, I think, that the context of everything, like from even into
Mm,
design or even into left or right, if you can pick up first principles thinking, you can actually do both the things equally well. That's my assumption of it.
right. That's a great answer. I mean, it's a lot of things that you, while you were talking, sort of resonated with me personally also. The fact that you, on one hand, you have an analytical frame of mind that helps you to deal with all that part of life that requires that, and then you have a creative blend that channelize your passion to what you do, and then you also delegate some of your work and eliminate some of your work, and that reminded me of how organizations also work, right?
Yeah,
In the
yeah,
sense that organizations. Generally tend to focus on what they're really good at, and that's called strategy, right? What you focus on what you're really good at, and double down on that, and give value to the customers, and then make things better. And to a large extent, I think economies also, even countries and economies also do it. The closest I can think of this is this concept called Ricardo's comparative analysis theory, where Ricardo is saying that if you are producing X and the other person's producing Y, and then you're good at it, continue producing it rather than diversifying it. And with very much is a personal thing also, right? And that I think that very in parallel to what you're saying as well.
yeah. Correct. I mean, see, like in I think in Naval Ravikant's almanac, he talks about
Hmm.
this thing that how you move up the ladder, right? Like
Yeah,
so first you are probably an employee, then you become a employer, like you become an entrepreneur, then you become an investor, and then
yeah,
that's how you grow up the ladder, right? And the only way
yeah.
to grow up the ladder is probably being able to automate what you can and probably
Hmm.
infinitely leverage on what other people can't. So
Yeah,
if you're sitting and doing that work, then you can't infinitely leverage on anything that's out there. And then so you
hmm.
keep doing that particular cycle of it. But I think, but it's easy to say. It's easy to say
Yeah,
when we are sitting in on the other side of it. But probably I think it's for somebody who's starting at it, it's very hard to kind of theorize that and see that. Oh, now I put X amount of hours here, and then I used to build my business when I was working,
hmm.
and the simple fact was I did not enjoy my work, right? So I
Right,
utilize those hours to build the business that I want. But if you don't enjoy your work, most of the time you're just sitting and thinking you're in a doomsday mode, right? You're
right,
just spiraling backwards. You don't have energy to do the work. Then how do you do the energy to do any business? So your
right.
escape velocity needs to be so high that
Hmm.
you are able to think that this is not going well. I'm anyway going down in this. I need to just forget about this and do this. Right?
Yeah,
And just do enough for this to ensure that I have the parachute until I land. So that's the best way to put it.
yeah, yeah. So I really want to, extend this concept of, what you said about elimination optimization in your business while you're working, because you only have limited time. I want to segue into what is your core of your work, today's work, that is leading organizations, being an entrepreneur, which is one being Insighte, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
Insighte, and the other being sport community space, and also involved with the Circle India, and as well as AllInclusive Foundation. So these are some of the organizations you are leading and being associated with. How does it how does it all align to your purpose, and whatever you've learned so far? How are you able to bring about into this work?
I forgot from where I picked it. So it's called decade thinking. Like you think in
Okay.
one decade.
Okay.
It's one of the podcasts. I think like I'm somebody who just every day consumes like a lot of podcasts. Just put in my ear. I mean, it's the most passive way to learn. Right? So I
Yeah.
put it on
Yeah.
my when I go for a walk and a drive. Anyway, I don't hate traffic. I don't want to listen to it. So this is the most passive way to learn. And I think in one of the podcasts I talk about is called decade thinking. But two interesting concepts that which I recommend to people. One is like let's say as an ADHD, you have very diverse interests. You are in you. Today I'm interested in finance. Tomorrow I'm interested in psychology. Tomorrow I'm interested in education. The jumping is very easy to do. So it's
Yeah.
very hard for someone to focus on. I mean, I don't think it's just ADHD. I think in general, I think people trying to focus
Yeah.
on one thing. We
Yeah.
multiply. I mean, in general, I feel like humans are generalists. And humans are good at multiple things. They try to be specialists
Yeah.
in their life and try to show a credential about it. But what they
Yeah.
enjoy would be to be a generalist. I would enjoy going on a ride. I would enjoy probably having great food. I would enjoy watching a great movie. I have a lot of parts about me. Right? I'm not probably good at one. But the assumption that is always sold to you is that you need to be good at one thing.
Yeah.
You really focus on like one thing. I think you would
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think for me, this particular concept, somebody saying that you need to have enough spaces to jump. Like you have a ping ball to throw, you have enough spaces to jump. You don't feel like you're jumping, but you have enough
Right.
space to move around an ecosystem. Like my
Right.
logic, like for example, in my 30 when I left my job, my logic was to build something for the child mental health ecosystem, right?
Right.
I did not come and think that I want to build a business for which is probably providing X service. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to take care of this ecosystem. Whatever puzzles is broken in this, I want to fix it. And
Yeah.
whatever way. And for profit, non-profit are technically two fundamental. I mean, two same thing, right? In for profit, somebody
Right.
pays for somebody who can afford to pay for it, and you
Mm.
give the service. Non-profit,
Mm.
they can't afford to pay, so somebody who can pay for it, like a corporate or a donor or somebody pays for it, and you do the service. Eventually, you're serving the same audience who are probably
Yeah.
not benefited. And my population that I work with are children with autism, ADHD, learning disabilities, from both parents who can afford and parents who can't afford it. I'm not
Yeah.
discriminating them on a disability anymore. Like I already reached the marginalization that I can't look back. I still
Mm.
get asked a question like, how much of your beneficiaries are like, from low income households or whatever it is.
Mm.
I mean, they are already, even if they have all resources, they are thrown out of a school. So
Right.
what more vulnerability can I go and support, right? So that's what I picked up. And then I'm like, I want to build this ecosystem. So initially we started with Insighte, which was like, again, an iteration model. We wanted to support children to go to mainstream schools. We gave them a shadow
Mm.
teacher and I figured I can just run it by sitting here, have one hiring manager doing all my work. Then we figured when COVID happened, these kids did not have access to schooling. We built the home
Mhm.
care vertical by providing them the like special education, behavior therapy, intervention at the home of the child. Because
Right.
then they did not travel, both the parents can work. A lot of the factors came into play, right? And even in remote work, we think it's easy, but if the child with autism, the parent needs to go out. Then the work is not
Right.
logged in, it's not clocked out. I mean, like all those things
Mm.
happen, right? So then for them, it was much convenient to take the service over there. Then I felt
Mm.
somewhere that I'm not benefiting children who are like who are not probably able to afford my service. Then we started a non-profit, that's the All-Inclusive Foundation, where we
Mm.
run school inclusion programs. We basically run the Bangalore Boys and Girls Home
Mm.
in terms of their academic program. We support another organization in terms of doing a school inclusion for school children who are dropouts from schools. We do a customized employment for someone who's an autistic adult who can't probably hold an employment by themselves. And
Right.
again, my logic was like, why create something which would make a child make the diya, some packaging, like like things that are like usually sold to donors as something like a gift, but never making a real livelihood for my children. So I'm very focused in terms of the teens and the adults and the kids that we work with in terms of building actual skill sets in them which could get them an employment. And sport was somewhere along the line that my children
Mm.
started dropping out of schools and they did not have a school to go to. And then I'm like, how do you build a school for dropouts? Like, the
Mm.
criteria to enter my school that the kid should be failing somewhere, right?
Right.
And then sport is basically built with that philosophy saying that it's a skill based school, it's an experiential learning school. You come here, you learn. You are not here, and like the logic is not here to teach. We'll take the best possible tech to support you in terms of from AI to anything to support you in terms of your learning. But the logic is for you to build skills, experience your community, do internships, do projects, and then build a portfolio of skills. So
Right.
if you look at it from that lens, everything looks very coherent in terms of a business. Like I'm just doing one thing
Yeah.
and I'm just doing one thing and solving different parts of it. But like it's like you're
Mm.
doing a Lego, right? You're doing a Lego. Okay, you figured, okay, there's no rail track, put a rail track over there, you put a hospital over there, you put a this thing over there. And I see it that way. And I
Yeah.
honestly believe by 40, I will be out of the space. At 40,
Okay.
whatever may be, I will probably hand it over for somebody else to run, or I'll give it to someone else to run. And the next 10 years, I will take to build on something else. And there's another thing that's very close to me. So I'll probably go work on that particular thing another 10 years. So I think this 10 year is the leeway that I give to like jump around. Though my people in my organization itself feels like, because I'm not really like, into one, sometimes like, that depth problem comes around because I
Yeah.
jump to the other one immediately, right? And sometimes I believe in hiring good people to build the depth.
Right.
Because if I sit to do the depth, then I'm just focusing on. So I know like one of the really good mentor is somebody who has been working with the same set of children, like 30 kids, for the last 10 years. So there is so much of depth with this work, right? Like as in like anything in that village, this guy goes, he gets invited to. He's the one that every family will come and ask for advice in terms of what should do they for a child. I will not have that visibility, but I might be
Yeah.
able to reach a lakh more children with the approach that I take on. And that's
Yeah.
what I believe in. And the same thing with like how I look at learning also. Like previously, I used to just randomly read and randomly look at things. Now what I do is I take one person and just deep dive on that person for the entire month. Like if I take
Right.
Robert Greene, I will probably start his Loss of Power. Then I'll hear
Mm.
him on YouTube. I'll hear his research courses available by him. So that entire 1 month, I'm just diving on that one guy. And then at the end of 1 month, I'm like, done. I'm done with you. Take the next person, then again do the deep dive and go do it. I think that philosophy of giving enough space, but giving the depth to it to dive around and do what I want, I think is what helps me to do multiple things.
Right. And, uh, and education is a space. I mean, this is an overlap of education,
Yeah.
neurodiversity, mental health. I mean, this is multiple areas coming together, and there are a lot of stakeholders, right? I mean, there
Yeah.
are private stakeholders, there are government organizations, there are, of course, the beneficiaries, which are the students and the parents of it. So, uh, at a higher level, what are the some of the things that are broken in ours? I mean, when it comes to access, when it comes to awareness, when it comes to creating meaningful life impact on these children. I mean, you as a practitioner would have observed certain learnings, certain themes, certain trends, certain challenges. If you can just highlight a few, maybe that'll be useful for people who are hearing it.
Uh, I think, like I keep saying, right? Like the problems exist at different levels.
Yeah.
There are parents who spend more money on a special needs child than what they're spending in a school. Like for example, like, they would need to pay me more money in a year to support a kid in the school than actually school fees. Which is a whole different problem to have. And it is not a problem of that
Mm.
parent or the child. It's a problem of the system, which is
Right.
allowing you to be, which is rewarding you to be non-inclusive, right?
Yeah.
The school, none of the schools are charged or penalized anything for not having an autistic kid or a child with learning disability in the class. We keep talking about the success products, like who finishes in the top end of the spectrum. There is a bottom 50% in every class, and that's very
Yeah.
high. What happens with
Yeah.
their outcomes, right? And I think like because we are like this 140 crore people, we are like
Mm.
assume that 50 crore people can fail, right?
Right.
And as a culture, we have also validated that there is always
Mm.
this caste levels which says that when these are the people with certain privileges, and we are fine with people in our like from a maid to security to somebody not even having the luxury of having an umbrella sometimes,
Yeah.
probably in the sun he's just standing there and doing work because we have insensitivized us to an extent where we don't feel that
Mm.
is an injustice done to it, right? Like half the time in when I have like a lot of schools which I there's a school inclusion list in my website if you go,
Yeah.
and some of
Mm.
the schools reached out to me saying that remove me from my your list of schools, right?
Okay.
And it is it's like you should be proud saying your school is inclusive. What their concern is
Mm.
that every autistic parent is reaching out to my school for admission, and now I don't have. I mean, I like because I can't have a lot of neurodiverse children, and I have to keep
Right.
saying no, so I can't have them, right? And the fact is simple.
Okay.
Like if your child is going to class and one child probably has echolalia and making some sound, you're coming back and
Mm.
saying to your parent that there's this kid who's making sound in my class. What should the parent be telling the child? Like yeah, he
Mm.
has that need to make that sound, it's fine, you would get used to it and you focus on your
Right.
education. Parent comes next day and says because of this child my child can't learn, right?
Right.
And then you start always ostracizing that particular kid, and then the kid is
Got
out
it.
of the system, and the teachers are not equipped to train those kids. Like that's again major thing, right? Indian teach in the beat I mean B.Ed, you should throw it to scrap. It's one of the worst educational programs in this country. right?
Right.
They
Right.
teach you nothing about teaching and nothing about working with children. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think I'm very insensitive when I say that, but
But yeah.
they don't come with the learning of understanding how to work with a kid, right? Who's probably struggling
Right.
in the class. They can teach, but they can't
Mm.
educate. And
Right.
that's a
Right.
fundamental failing of our classrooms. I'm not saying
Mm.
everybody, but I'm saying a good amount of them, right? And like
Yeah.
if you look at in cities, a lot of teachers are not teachers. They're probably somebody who did
Mm.
not get a job, or with the husband they came to here, or they had a
Correct.
partner who was not probably looking for a job, and then became a teacher by not by
Yeah.
choice, but by like force of it. And then they don't do justice to the children in the class, right? And another third factor is not getting. I mean, teachers are paid peanuts in this country. Like in private
Mm.
schools, pay 15,000, 20,000, 30,000. What is the motivation for the teacher to teach? Right,
Right.
like
Right.
where are they going to work with this particular kid in terms of benefiting them, like, or like learning hours to go learn something and come. And fourth factor
Mm.
is you putting so much of paperwork on this teacher. The more
Mm.
tech enabled a school becomes, the more paperwork the teacher needs to do, because no tech is actually happening in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
You are going back and feeding all those data machines,
Yeah.
saying that okay, the child came in, child went out, this is the daily report of the child, this is what the child assessment is, this is the rubric, this is the rubric. Where is the child,
Right.
the time for the teacher to go work one on one with the child who needs an additional hour of the teacher, right?
Yeah.
So my fundamental point is education system by nature is flawed. On top of that, you
Yeah.
have a government which is not supporting, like, which has a archaic institution called an RCI, which basically
Mm.
only allows like probably 1,000 professionals for 10 lakh children who are certified to
Mm.
work. Right? They just
Mm.
send one mail saying that, I mean, you are only these people can work with children, and then you don't have enough professionals to work with kids in this particular setting. So there is again a gap over there. So it's fundamentally broken from a system lens, like in all directions. And the
Mm.
incentive wise for somebody to go do something about it is also very missing, right?
Right.
Yes, I mean, and if you look at from an access, only probably a tier one and a metro might have some form of access for inclusion, and everybody else who is over there, it's not affordable, and therapy is expensive, special
Right.
education is expensive, OT is expensive, speech is expensive. So tech is not there yet. Like
Mm.
whatever we say about tech is not there yet to support those children. We've started using AI to generate resources for our teachers. But
Mm.
even I feel like it's still not there to create those resources that my teachers need. So a lot of spaces we have a lot of lack in terms of tech and whatever it is. And again, it's a very scattered market for somebody to
Mm.
come and say, now I'll build a Manipal or a Polo over there. It's a very scattered market to build such a big kind of a value business also. That also again
Right.
becomes a resistance towards you probably getting a VC funding or something like that in terms of building something on the ground. So there
Mm.
are multiple factors that place on it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think you touched on the right, the most important keyword, which is the incentive. I think
Yeah.
incentives in a free market economy plays a big role, even in including those are marginalized, those are otherwise not captured, in the services that society provides. Incentives can play a major role. Do you think? My question is: do you think is there a universe in which, let's say, if we create the right incentives within the schools, that the services that you're providing, but let's say plugged into schools with some sort of a commercial incentive that can include these people who are right now marginalized, right now, intersectionalities of it, like the caste, the economic poverty, the neurodiversity, whatever intersectionalities that are pulling them down. Is there a commercial model that can be created, that can be feasibly run by the schools or any of the stakeholders that makes this happen?
Like, uh, see, though we talk about free market economy, so one of the most amazing experience I had in terms of a school is when I went to UK. I went to this, I think it was called North Wembley. I remember the exact, I probably am saying the school name wrong. So we went to the school in this thing. And that school, like, in that 85% were immigrants,
Oh.
uh, and 15% were probably the white children over there. And fully funded, like in education, UK is fully funded from a school lens. And that particular funding has a criteria on inclusion, saying that you'll get
Mhm.
X money only if you have X number of children and they are achieving this academic outcomes. And then the school funding is again directed by saying what is outcomes your children are achieving. If your
Right.
school is in this level, they get X funding. If the school is in this level, they get X funding. Then there are charter schools. See, there might be fundamental flaws to that model over there. I'm
Mhm.
get the model here. But I feel like,
Mhm.
from an Indian system, Indian education is given to private in the schooling level. But when it goes to
Yeah.
college, everybody wants to go to a government college. right?
Right.
So
Right.
whether there's because there is, see, Kerala does a great job of working with the government schools. Like
Yeah.
being Malayali, I mean, I think I should just say that. Like they do a great job of
Yeah.
promoting the government school system over there. I still don't think that's creating the quality of it. I still believe English and all those things should come in the beginning of the thing. They don't have great teachers because the teachers are not incentivized to learn or like upskill themselves, and that's a problem that the government schools have.
Mm.
And the cathedral schools by nature are exclusive. Uh,
Yeah.
that's what I like to believe in because they always want to promote competition. They will say they're inclusive and everything, but the most,
Yeah.
I mean, I've rarely had great success stories of my children from any of the uh, cathedral schools.
Yeah.
And the third part is like probably private school, which is incentivized to probably have these kids over there. So I don't think in India there's enough incentive for the school system to take that step to move them forward. Like if
Right.
they're like if ranking exists for schools, and there is a criteria to say that if you have these kids and these kids are achieving X outcomes, then your school will
Mm.
move forward. Then I think a lot of schools will be incentivized to come to that particular thing. I think there's a school inclusion, like the great place to work. There's a school inclusion thing that somebody's planning. I hope it some way
Mm.
works around. But again, this will become superficial layer in terms of something like that. And actually, if you look at it from an employment lens, a lot of corporates are opening up opportunities for neurodiverse individuals, but that funnel is not being met, right? So
Mm.
I
Mm.
know companies which are currently hiring who come and told me like we have reached to at least 10 corporates training these many people, but hardly 2 out of 10 can be fit in my job, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
also that this is another thing that I keep criticizing in this space. This is a notion of child readiness.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Uh, when it comes to someone who is disabled, like autism, ADHD, learning disability, I'm just sticking to that spectrum. A child can also not learn because of behavioral issues, not liking the teacher, school don't not having the infrastructure. A lot of other factors are there. This particular group of children, right? So something you fundamentally see is that they actually want to learn, but
Yeah.
then the learning system is not built. Like for example, your assessment system is not built to support them. Like you want
Yeah.
everybody to write an exam paper. I hated writing,
Mm.
right? If I had
Yeah.
other forms of assessment, I would be scoring more marks than what I would fundamentally score. So it needs to touch upon a lot of levels in your systems to move it forward. And I don't think it's
Mm.
happening anytime soon, right? But
Right. Right.
probably opening up more channels like a NIOS or a Cambridge webinars that's
Mm.
Pearson Excel track. Some of those tracks which are
Yeah.
more portfolio oriented to probably get these children forward, I think would probably help it over there. Um, but it's a long battle. Like your colleges and
Right.
schools are fundamentally changed if you're feeling the kids, then corporates are saying they're ready to hire them. So there's a
Yeah.
gap which is existing in the supply chain. I hope somebody builds something around that supply chain also.
Understood. Understood. That gives me a lot of thought, on this subject. The other thing that I want to touch upon is you mentioned is future readiness of children, and readiness of. I mean, as somebody who works in human resources myself, I am aware that a lot of skills that are currently being, or maybe like 5 years, 10 years back, was seen as most in demand, is now going away because of a lot of other things that going the introduction of AI and machine learning, and so on, so many other things. The skills that are in demand are changing, and the sport the sport community space is focused on that to build future of work. So, how does future of work, and the skills that are part of it align with your work? And what is your vision towards it? How do you see things changing in, let's say, 10, 15 years time, based on the experience you had?
So I think you are a HR, right? So what
Yeah.
is something that you noticed probably shifting in your hiring pattern with young people who are coming to the workforce versus probably somebody who you was hiring like 5 years back? Like what is something you noticed?
I think people are now the hiring is more skill based. We are not looking at formal degrees anymore. We are looking at what can the person do, what value the person can bring into a job, and also a strong set of interpersonal skills, or what we call as an emotional intelligence. Can he deal with complicated situations? Does he have a flair of managing people? Is he okay? Is that person okay with ambiguous situation? So a bit of a technical knowledge. Can he have experiential knowledge in on what he claims to be a skill? And also, does the person have the softer skills to manage a difficult situation? So these are the last trends I can think of. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So
Yeah.
I think we were the previous market was chasing accreditations. Like, what is the certificate you carry? What is the
Mm,
degree you
mm,
carry? What is the marks you carry? That was how the previous market is driven, right? So I think that
yeah,
there's a recent report which said like 80% of Indians are not skilled enough to be employed. And there are a few opportunities
mm,
out there. from cybersecurity to anything and everything out there. And another thing is like from like previously the learning age for a skill was 18. Like
Yeah.
for somebody to learn, like you would say that you finish your 12th and your vocational education started in India. Again, another thing which we look again downward, saying that vocational education is accessed by somebody, because historically again there's a lot of caste bias on that, right?
Yeah.
Occasions are done by somebody who did not get a white collar job, who in India
Right.
to sit in one corner and enjoy. And again, you look at it from that lens, and then you say a kid who goes to vocational education is somebody who comes from a underprivileged background. I don't want
Yeah.
my child to go and access a ITA degree. My father is a carpenter. My father did
Yeah.
12th ITA. He went for it and he got into police or something. My mom's an engineer. Right?
Mm,
So both the perspectives exist in my house, and I
mm,
feel good to learn that. And like half the time when my house construction happens, I can see my dad having that skill as a carpenter really coming out. Though sometimes
yeah.
I help me as a person who's building the house, uh, but it works around, like he has that skill for it. So I feel
Yeah.
like like this generation, the skilling should
Mm,
start somewhere between 14,
mm,
because they are going to. I mean, and like the time to earn is coming drastically
mm,
down. There are 14-year-old
yeah.
who are running businesses on Instagram. They're able to
Mm,
being an influencer. They're able to make money much earlier than what a typical us we would have been able to earn. Right? We would need to at least wait till
right.
21 or something to probably get into a job force and then make the money. Now it
Yeah.
works in reverse. And the thing is that again, there is something called the brands are moved away from company to a personal level. Like you are trying to
Yeah.
build a brand by building this podcast, right? I am probably
Mm,
putting myself out there on LinkedIn to probably build a
mm,
brand which is more visible than my company. And I
right.
feel like those are areas where giving a child what do you call it, the first mover advantage, or either
Yeah.
10,000 hours in
Yeah.
terms of building that mastery of different skills. I'm not saying a child should be a specialist at 14, right? We throw them a bouquet of like a full buffet of services, things and topics they want to pick and learn, and we just facilitate that learning in terms of reach a level where they are able to do something about it, right? Probably my
Mm,
kid who comes to sport might learn like a little bit of graphic designing. So we did a film making workshops, right? They came, made some short films, understood how to do storytelling, how to do a script. Uh, they're all like 13, 14 years old, right? Probably now I put
mm,
them to a business which is near in my community and tell them to make an ad film for them, or something for them. Then they understand what the business is doing without even actually learning what's happening. And then they make a commercial for it, put it out there, figure out what's the feedback on that particular thing getting for that business. Are they able to drive in a business? I've created a content creator over there, right? Without even putting
yeah.
any effort to do it. And I benefited my community business, which is a small shop over there, to reach out and work with the children. I think that's the way education should move forward.
Right. Right.
And why are we stopping children from using AI in classrooms?
Yeah.
I mean, if and again, the moving away from a knowledge economy to information economy to being a critical think economy. Right? Now
Right.
I should be able to critically think what should I prompt there, because AI knows the answer. There's no point in me
Yeah.
mugging up physics may, what are the plans, chemistry may, like what are the different elements. Not even to draft a letter. Like,
Yeah.
forget drafting a letter. I thought now don't even draft a letter. I just throw it to AI and take it and then put it out there. Right. So
Yeah.
what skills are we teaching our children in schools? Making them sit in there,
Mm,
make them write those notes. What are they going to do out? And then there is a whole moment about saying, oh, screen time, children don't have screen, should not have screen time, this and everything. This is like,
mm,
our parents saying when TV started, I think when we were almost the same age,
yeah. Yeah.
TVs are like idiot box, you're getting less marks because you're sitting in front of the TV. Like,
Yeah.
I think half my science education was watching this stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, and probably my knowledge about nature is from probably watching National Geographic, and probably my
Yeah.
knowledge about sex is from watching porn. Right?
Yeah.
I put all those things on the device that I saw. So I personally believe that you should give if you teach. I mean, when I think Steve Jobs, when he invented, like when he started iPhone, there's something he told his
Mm,
daughter. I believe, I think she wrote about this, saying that,
mm,
see, I think he did not use his children's phone, which is what everybody talks about. But then he tells his
mm,
daughter, right, that
yeah.
I need to figure out how to put this technology in your hand in a way that you can use for your advantage and not for your
Mm,
disadvantage. Because it's easy to
yeah.
misuse this, but I need to learn how to teach you to use it in an advantage manner. And Apple put a lot of money in Apple education when they were building to make
Mm,
it like a usable thing for children. So I
mm,
strongly believe that devices are going to drive our children. How much ever you keep it, 11, 12, 13, 14, they are going to get that device in their hand. Right? When they're under
yeah.
5, I'll probably stay away from devices to a good extent. But beyond that, I believe that it should be an active part of a kid learning. Right? And if a kid don't know to code, I mean, coding is not again anymore, but thinking, I mean, what you call as computational thinking is something very critical for a child. right? A
Right.
collaboration. Like, we are not more going to a world of competition. I'm sitting here
Mm.
working with people in 10 different countries on a project. So how do I
Yeah.
collaborate with different humans? Like, I'm not competing with anybody in my teammate to progress forward. Getting projects, being able to sell themselves. These are skills I don't
Mm.
think are going to go away, right? Like the core skills is going
Right.
to remain the same thing. But probably what is going to change is, like I said, like we talked about before, anything that I can eliminate. If I can eliminate
Yeah.
my call center, I'll eliminate my call center first, right? If I
Mm.
can eliminate my finances, I'll eliminate my finances ka work first. So these are
Mm.
industries where you're going to see a lot more churn. When AI was being discussed 10 years back, I thought like the last industry AI would touch is design, right? Because I'm
Right.
like, all computer people are going to lose their jobs. But the first industry that AI or cracked was design, right? Like, I
Design.
mean,
Wally 2 and all that. Yeah.
yeah, you don't even
Yeah.
use a
Yeah.
Canva anymore, right? You generate your designs and you
Yeah.
get it done through Magic Designs or something like that. You have a lot of tools to make.
Mm.
You can even make videos now, right? So
Right.
which actually takes the whole creative force away. But then
Yeah.
the pressure is put on the creative guy to think now where do I make money?
Mm.
But I strongly believe because it attacked them first, they'd be the first ones to survive in the next market, right?
Right. Right.
And tech jobs would be taken away so fast, and for them to move into like a phase where you're able to catch up that job is would be very hard. Because I strongly believe
Right.
like when you leave the factory to machine era, like the people who thought that they will not lose their jobs was the guys who was a mechanic in a Ford car showroom. He's thinking that this factory is never going to come and replace my efficiency in terms of making this car. There are actual
Mm. Mm.
papers written on it, like people saying that
Yeah.
you're going to touch my industry. The first people to get
Yeah.
wiped out, you go to Detroit, you see a flurry of these businesses being shut down, garages being available for sale and everything. So I,
Yeah.
so I can't predict for my children where the world is going to go. What I can put them is like a list of skills which should probably take them forward in that journey. And I strongly believe
Right.
that like after four, no need of tuitions. Done. You crack that exam, not crack that exam is not worth it. Put 3 hours of your time in skilling yourself or
Right.
even play football if you're really good at it, right? Even like get into an ISL team. So I have an ADHD kid that I work with. He's now
Mm.
15. I mean, I don't work with as in like I coach him in certain aspects. He
Yeah.
struggled through he was my manager's son. Basically. He struggled in school and everything. And then one day he figured that he goes to play and nobody wants to participate, right? As in he's
Mm.
little rowdyish with things.
Right. Right. Right.
So we basically made him a goalkeeper. We always make him a goalkeeper. And he got so good at it because he's been doing it there all his
Right.
life. He's now Kerala
Yeah.
last team goalkeeper, right?
Wow. Okay. What a
Yeah.
story.
and,
Right.
and in
Yeah.
his school, you don't tell people that he's
Okay.
playing there, right?
Right. Right.
And that's my point. So you don't even need to be good at education to figure out things in life. He goes and
Yeah.
sits in
Yeah.
class and has to do his studies because
Yeah.
his like reading level is not there yet. But he's
Yeah.
a killer. I mean, what are you going to check? I think there's this player who plays for Tottenham Hotspurs,
Mm.
Richarlison, right? I mean, Richarlison, I
Rich
guess.
Harrison. Yeah. Brazil. Brazil. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So he was saying,
Yeah. Yeah.
without football, I would
Mm.
not know what to do in my life because I was bad at everything else,
Mm.
right?
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah.
so finding that good spaces for our children to get gaming, like like we have most, I think ADC children are mostly blamed for being gamers. Because even as an adult, I game like 3 hours in the night. Like I play FIFA, I play
Yeah.
FIFA good 2 3 hours in the night with all this work happening. That's how I shut down my
Yeah.
brain, right?
Yeah.
So even e-gamers, a lot of e-gamers are neurodivergent children. So there's a lot of scope and avenues for people to come forward and look at jobs which never existed before, which our parents are going
Right.
to say that, oh, you're like, my parents still look at me and say you're doing business when you should have been doing in a government job. But the same way, our children are not going to be appreciated by their parents, but I believe they are able
Yeah.
to find something that they're really passionate and will be able to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Lot of interesting thoughts there. I mean, a lot of things that I personally resonate with myself. This is a good point to move into the next segment, which can be our last segment also, which is the entrepreneurship and the business consulting aspect of your life. And I really want to know there are some interesting keywords that I came across. One is we start with the young psychologist program because it's very interesting because psychology is a I would see psychology as a very horizontal subject that touch across all the other verticals, and it has huge applications in because every function, every
I wish it was
discipline that we
how it
deal
is
with,
taught in the college, but that's not how it's being taught in the college.
that's not how it is.
So yeah, that's another problem.
Yeah, please go on. I will continue your thought there. Yeah. No, my question was because it's a horizontal subject, and because everything deals with people, every discipline has a people element, and everything that we deal with society as people element, the psychology is most important. So I want to know your thoughts in how this program came about, how you perceive it. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope I don't get attacked for this video. Like I think I'm saying kind of more controversial stuff over there. Um, so like you said, psychology is at the essence of everything, from finance to life to marketing to products to everything. But you go and talk to a master psychology graduate
Yeah.
and assess them for their skills.
Yeah.
Right? What has happened in this country is that it has a curriculum which has never changed in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Second part to it, like not even neuroscience is properly taught in the psychology degree. Okay.
Yeah.
The second part is we have gone to this model of having PhD holders as academicians in colleges, great for some subjects, right?
Yeah.
But bad for our technical colleges and psychology colleges. Because there are professors who never never saw a client in their life who's coming and teaching in their class children on how to see a client, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in 5 years, like in like a I mean, my wife is a medical doctor. In the
Yeah.
second year, she was seeing a patient. I mean, she was at
Yeah.
least assisting in terms of putting a valve or something like that. In year 3 or 4, they're cutting a patient up and down, doing an anatomy. That's the progression they have as a medical student in this country. You know what a psychology
Yeah.
student is expected to do? Nothing.
Mm.
They're asked to observe, saying that
Yeah.
this is from a very Western Puritan view to say that
Yeah.
only the senior therapist should see the client, and
Right.
as someone who's doing an internship in this field, I should just observe.
Right. Right.
And until your masters, you're just doing this. You can't
Yeah.
practice, you can't work with clients, you can't do anything. What skill does that person have when they come out of that market, right? And that's the
Mm.
reason why the
Fair
psychologists
point.
are the most underpaid in this country, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
the same psychology paper exists in an IIT, in a cognitive science
Mm.
masters. A person who
Yeah.
passes out of that gets a package of
Mm.
24 lakh to 36 lakhs. Right?
Yeah.
Same subject. Same subject somebody is learning with a little bit of tech and neuroscience and everything. Why don't Indian colleges just teach that? Right?
Yeah.
And give more. What are you teaching so much of theory and dissertation? Two dissertations my people do. That entire 12 months
Mm.
they can give to them to work with some companies in the field, learn
Yeah.
actual practical skills to work, right? But this is
Yeah.
clinicians
Yeah.
who are, like I said, this RCA lobby and these people who don't want these people
Mm.
to practice and don't have the accreditation. They're not even given an accreditation to practice a master's in India, right? Because only
Mm.
RCA
Mm.
gives accreditation and masters PhD don't have it. Then they are
Mm.
pressured to go to an MPhil to probably get a degree to come and work in this space. So 7 years
Right.
of education in then hardly 2 years of clinical practice. That is the stage of psychology in India. And when YGP started, the logic was for them to be exposed to multiple careers in the field. So we brought in a
Right.
marine psychologist, we brought in a cognitive psychologist, we brought in a forensic psychologist, we brought in a
Mm.
play therapist, we brought in different avenues they had
Mm.
to kind of come and talk to them and give that exposure to them in terms of that. Right? That is what IPP was. Started during COVID, we kind of modified it into a child psychology program now, where we basically give like a certification course in colleges to teach children in terms of child psychology and the basics of it and how to work with autism, ADHD, neurodiversity, everything, and take them out so that at least I am able to hire somebody with some qualification, some understanding of it.
Yeah.
When in interviews, when we ask a master's in psychology graduate, uh, what does autism mean? You would be surprised to hear the responses. Later,
Mm.
someone like facial features, IQ below 80, don't
Mm.
speaking. This is what a
Mm.
psychology master's graduate is telling me about it. And in terms of the
Yeah.
approach they need to work, they don't know how to work, right?
Right.
So I feel like it's way too broken as an industry. That's why we started doing it.
The next topic I want to touch upon is the incubating job, incubating work that you're doing with various organizations. If I can name a few, the Circle, the Impact Singapore, MIT SIAG, SC, I am Bangalore, I hope. I am Bangalore.
Yeah.
Then TSIC. So the list goes on. So what has been your experiences working as an incubator, and how does it add to your life?
I think somebody asked me this question about like why do I keep going to incubation programs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, technically, like not really for to raise any funds. Usually, people go to incubation programs to raise funds. I feel
Yeah.
like I like to be on a like I don't have a boss. As an entrepreneur, I don't have a
Yeah.
boss.
Hmm.
The one who's running the show. And I feel like these incubations help me to be like that boss for me, right? They help me to focus in
Hmm.
6 months in terms of building a business. and kind of also give me the resources to get to that particular stage. So I was doing circle for
Yeah.
the last 1.5 years. So circle, I did not
Mm.
understand anything about schooling and education, and circle helped me to go to like 50 different schools in the country,
Yeah.
explore what as an education happens in different countries. They are the people who basically set up Teach for India, so they have like an in-depth
Right.
understanding of education from inequity lens, a lot of those things, and great exposure with they got resources from across the world and a coach from US who had worked in setting up inclusion 14 different schools in US to help me with what I wanted to do. So those incredible resources which otherwise I would need to pay like per hour like 15,000, 20,000 to get, I think
Mm.
incubation helps me get. There are good
Got
and
it.
bad incubation programs in the country,
Mm.
and depends on where you land. But luckily, I've been able to crack like MIT Siege,
Mm.
like Circle, like some of the premium programs in the country to go and be there. Um,
Yeah.
and uh, and it's also because of the niche that I work in. I believe like more than me as an entrepreneur, my credibility or my skills. I believe
Mm.
the area that I work in is something that they look at and then I get supported for it. Um, but like you also sometimes go for like some money to get out of it to probably get, to run what you want. But I don't think
Yeah.
money has never been my motivation to go to an incubation program, but just to learn new things. I think there was one I did in Singapore. Nothing came out of that. I had to basically did not pursue that business also, but they gave me a coach who was probably heading I think HSBC ka the entire Singapore version, right? Amazing
Cool.
coach. Like to get that 1 hour, I would need to probably spend lakhs. And you're able to get
Yeah.
those coaches and mentors and able to access that through these incubation programs. I believe is the biggest leverage that you get.
Understood.
And Circle was also funding fund their entrepreneurs. So anybody who probably wants to build something in education space, I recommend them to go to Circle because you get paid about 60,000 a stipend to for 1.5 years to build what you want. And
Mm.
strongly recommend people if they're looking for incubation programs to go for like programs which give some kind of a like remuneration upfront for the entrepreneur than the business
Got
fund.
it.
Something like yeah, entrepreneur first. I think
Mm.
I forgot the name. There's one Andler. Some of those
Mm.
funds which actually give the money up for the entrepreneur because you need unless you are able to put food and have a shelter, you can't think about
Yeah.
your business, right? And you are able
Right.
to sort these two things out, then you are able to think for it. There's this
Yeah.
show called Undercover Billionaire. If you want to watch it, watch
Mm.
it. I think brilliant. The first season is brilliant. The guy is amazing. That level of
Mm.
insights you would get from that show, you will not get from anywhere else. Um,
Got it.
and people go to Shark Tank, always think that this going to these people is to raise money, but money
Mm.
is fundamentally what you need to chase if you have a value proposition that you want to build, and to get to that PMF takes some time. Even if you have 10
Right.
lakhs in your bank, you can just burn it in 2 months and not have that do nothing, right? And end up
Right.
with it. But so when you have money to sustain you, it's much easier to
Mm.
solve for and get to that PMF, and then you have the question to launch it forward from there. So that's what
Right.
I believe in incubation programs. I also work as a mentor for a few incubation programs. Startups get
Mm.
to send to me for getting feedback. I'm more than happy to sit and brainstorm with startups to get their ideas, and that's how we keep fresh in this field also. I
Right.
don't understand tech that much, so I learned a lot of tech by talking to different startups in this space.
Mm.
And always an entrepreneur meeting an entrepreneur is the best conversation ever. Uh, it's better than any bumble date you can find.
Yeah.
That's what I
Right.
would agree.
The secret hack that I can take away from this is if you want to learn things for free, become an entrepreneur, start a company, get it incubated. That's the key takeaway for people who are watching this. But
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for this. I think this is helpful. I'm mindful of the time also, so I'll quickly come into the last segment, which is the future. So 2004 is here, and world is changing rapidly. Be it technology, be it the jobs, be it how people are responding to social situations. I mean, there is a lot happening around us. What are your hopes? What are your aspirations? What are your goals for 2024 and beyond? If you can, allow us into your world of 2004.
Right. So, so there's two, three quick reflection that I had. So, one was at the start of the year, I was thinking in terms of what do I want to do. So I realized that uh, I'm sometimes I have the joy of learning. Sometimes I miss the joy of learning. There are two, three things I want to learn this year. One is bartending. One is to probably learn surfing. I've learned surfing a little more because eventually I want to settle down near a beach. I'm a huge fan of
Yeah.
Varkala, and I want to probably own a property somewhere in Varkala to settle down. So I think from a monetary goals, I don't chase much. I'm
Mm.
quite happy doing the hustle that I do, and in terms of whatever that needs to play, get that thing done. But I realized that I am now grown to an organization where I'm probably working with 150 people. 40, and the other office have about 15, 20 people. There's a 150, 160 people. Then I realized those people also have dreams of their life and where they want to take it forward. And though I was resistant to fundraising for a good amount of time, now I come to a point where I need to grow my organizations so that these people get paid the best in the market. Right? These people are able to uh, build a life for them, probably like some form of an ESOP or something that would go benefit. And I actively started finding leaders and making them head different verticals in my organization to build different businesses inside this. So like Insighte
Right.
counseling is built by one of my employee. Insighte
Right.
home care is built by one of my employee. Insighte in other
Hmm.
markets, Dubai we are starting. So we are having another one of my teammates building it over there. One person is building it in
Hmm.
Ahmedabad, Delhi. So it might take it. I think the next 2, 3 years is probably helping these entrepreneurs like
Hmm.
just put the fulcrum that I started in motion in different places. So instead of starting a
Right.
franchise, I'm just doing employee franchises. That's what
Right.
I would like to look at it. I just need to find
Okay.
finances for them to set it up and run. And sport also,
Yeah.
eventually my logic is that next 2 to 3 years, my sport might come to a point where I can fulcrum it and create n number of sports to have high quality education for children who are probably left out of classrooms. And each of
Hmm.
my persons working with me will probably eventually take one of their sport and run for it. So a lot of my team is goals have come towards in terms of building inwards, in terms of what I
Hmm.
want to get out, and money. I'm one skill I did not have was though I worked in bank for a long time was fundraising. It's a
Hmm.
fundamental flaw in growing up in a house where my mom never allowed me to ask for money because my mom had faced a lot of difficulty in her education about money, and she was like, "You are anyway creating enough trouble. Don't create a trouble for money. Right? Have enough pocket
Yeah.
money." So
Right.
she gave me a debit card when I went to college, and other kids were like struggling with money and everything. I always had a house, a rented house to
Hmm.
live in, fancy rented house, but
Hmm.
a good rented house to live in, not a PG hostel or anything.
Right.
And I was always very good with money, so I never really had to struggle to ask somebody for money. And even when I was
Hmm.
building that 10,000 crore company, which is about 40,000 crore company right now, I did not go and ask for money. The capital was already available as equity.
Yeah.
So and I was always given money on the other side of it.
Hmm. Right.
So even as in somebody who goes ask the money to someone, when
Hmm.
most starters don't understand a lot of thesis about money, when they go ask for it, they think their great product is going to have $1 billion, and they're
Hmm.
stupid enough to believe in that thing, right? But I
Yeah.
am someone who looks at my numbers and then say that I have a margin of X, I have a
Hmm.
capital of X. I know that this is not like when people put this fancy slide in the slide saying $140 billion market, $60 billion
Hmm.
market. I'm like, it's a 500 crore market or a 1,000 crore market in
Yeah.
India. Forgetting India as a market, right? And most
Yeah.
studies don't look at that. And I know,
Hmm.
what my market size would be. We would have talking about a
Right.
3 4 crore size market in the bigger size, right? For
Right.
neurodiverse
Hmm.
and autism and related services and everything you put together. Education is a much bigger market. So because I
Hmm.
know my numbers, it also makes me very hard to ask money from somebody else. But I
Right.
think that's one resistance I've overcome this year to know that the money that I'm raising is for the children. As in,
Hmm.
if I'm able to raise more money and support more children in different markets, it's for the kids. It's not
Right.
for me. Right? And I'm ethical
Right.
about
Right.
raising the money to where I put it and use it.
Yeah.
And I don't think my needs are going to grow exponentially, and I'm able to put it and use it in different things. And that has fundamentally broken my again a good coach from an incubation program works in that. In terms of breaking my barrier to that, giving me script to pitch, giving me a pitch to go and do and everything. And I'm again back to market to do fundraising right now to kind of get to that. I
Yeah.
hopefully that's success in that particular phase of this. People say that I tell everything, I give more value, but then I forgot to ask for the money. And
Right.
that ask is something I'm learning. So I'm still learning as a
Correct.
person, in terms of uh, how to ask somebody to give me money. Yeah, that's it.
Understood. Understood. And it reminds me the point around you raising money so that you can help a lot of people, a lot of children. Reminds me of a scene from one of my favorite films. It's called Schindler's List. In this, there is a scene in one of the final scenes in which the Schindler is about to leave with the people whom he has picked for his factory, and he's saving the people from the concentration camp. And Ben Kingsley's character, who's I think the leader of the people, comes to him and say, and then he's actually sobbing because he know that he's not able to take a lot of people, the Schindler himself. And then he's asking Ben Kingsley, "I've not done enough. Perhaps I could have saved some money and I could have gotten more people." And then Ben Kingsley says this dialogue that saving one person is equivalent to saving the world. I mean, it's a Jewish saying. It's mentioned somewhere in the Jewish books. But I just got reminded of your work. The scene got I got in my under the steam, and when I heard you talking. But thank you so much for this huge download of content, huge inspiration, the journey that you've taken, inspirational journey you've taken, and the fantastic work you're doing. Please continue doing that, and I hope and we get to meet again with a lot more stories down the line, and we have more people as panelists as well, so we get to have a little more interaction with from them as well. So thank you so much for supporting my endeavor. Yes, of Recommentary. It's very helpful, and hope to meet you soon. And all the best.
Thank you, Gautam. I think like one thing when I do these talks, if I'm not reluctant to do any of these things, is that like first of all, I think I need a lot of self-reflection. Don't have time to
Right.
self-reflect. So
Yeah.
create space to self-reflect and kind of figure out like what I said in the end is in my head, never came out.
Yeah.
So it's I think the first time it just came out of my head. And because I'm still learning a lot of things in that. So I feel like these are like great avenues for entrepreneurs or something to come and learn. Uh, I'll be definitely checking out the podcast in terms of that you put out there, and this is something I want to do basically by the way, because
Oh,
I feel like
okay.
the other hack to not having incubation program is start something content, and then you get to meet the
Yeah.
people you want to talk to, and give a leverage to use that content leverage and create infinite support for other people. So I hope
Correct.
that you are able to reach the million audience in the way that you want to get content and support them as well. So thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you.